make yourself more than just a man if you devote yourself to an ideal, and you become something else entirely.
Welcome to another Dark Nights news video. Melissa Benoist is once again doing toxic things during interviews. Has been about 2 or 3 weeks since the last time.
And then I knew that Supergirl was going to carry a lot of pressure, and the responsibilities were going to be immense.
Did Melissa Benoist just pull a Seto Kaiba? Let's check if she did. In a hilarious but toxic way, that is the case because in the last interview she said this.
Especially with Supergirl because of how much responsibility that was for me.
Only to later screw up and say something very toxic later in that interview. Which she does say something very toxic later in this interview. Here is the next toxic thing Melissa Benoist says in this interview.
And then when Supergirl came around, I'm not saying it was pretty and there were like some missteps. I wasn't always the best leader, but I certainly learned how to be one.
Fact that Melissa Benoist thinks her abusive, narcissistic character God complex girl is a leader is creepy. How about we use a clip from the show to explain?
It's no worse than light kryptonite poisoning.
Come on. There is too much at stake for you to still be mad at me.
This was a rescue mission involving innocent civilians, and your toxic character screwed it up, which led to an innocent civilian getting terminated. For that scene, those 3 could be considered a team, but after that scene, they are just God complex girl and Alex versus Lena, with a side of civilian lives not mattering as long as poor little God complex girl gets what it wants. How can Melissa Benoist learn how to be a leader from a character who has its own head up, its own rear, while on a rescue mission? She cannot, which means Melissa Benoist is lying. Even gamers know that on a mission, if everyone is not focused and working together, then the mission can and will go wrong. Firefighters know that this is difference between life saved or life gone. That rescue mission did go wrong because an innocent person did get terminated. How did the show handle this? This is how.
We got rid of 2 out of the 3 world killers. Like, that's a win.
And we'll find Sam. Somehow. I know. Hey, a cool new suit.
Writers had a different character say something toxic that sounds like something God complex girl would say. Then Alex was trying to comfort God complex girl instead of talking about how the family of the terminated civilian needs comfort. The topic is even changed to Alex's new uniform. Point is, with those lines, they completely ignored the fact that an innocent civilian is gone forever. Clearly, Melissa Benoist thinks a leader is someone who chooses their own abusive, narcissistic ego over the life of an innocent person. The next toxic thing Melissa Benoist says in this interview is,
I think what always drove me working on that show was the audience and who I knew I was making the show for.
On the screen, you have an Instagram video she made back during season 5 about her being the victim of an abusive person. This is the exact same lady that said this next thing in the previous interview.
I feel like I don't ever think twice about what anyone will think of or how they will judge my character, or if they don't like them, it doesn't matter.
How can the audience be what drove her when she does not value their thoughts at all? Especially when the audience have valid complaints regarding her abusive, narcissistic character known as God complex girl. Let me give you an example in next clip.
If you don't stop, I'll stop you.
Welcome to try.
You know what I mean? Like, he's like, I'm gonna do this regardless. You gonna break his leg so he can't go out and fight?
2 reactors realized that God complex girl had intentions to fully abuse James, while Melissa had no second thoughts regarding her character's actions, even though she herself is a victim of abuse. There are more toxic things Melissa Benoist said during that interview to show. So here is the next clip.
But the people that I was making that show for while we were making it were young women. And if I kept that in the forefront of my mind, it always made everything palatable.
There are two reasons why Melissa Benoist is completely lying in regards to her claim about making the show for young women. Here is a toxic clip from the show.
I beat Cal down to the ground when I had to. I'll beat her down too.
That scene is during season 3. Let me show you when God Complex girls' hatred towards Clark Kent started.
Just want to thank you all for your hard work protecting Earth.
Oh, brother.
Your cousin smells terrific.
Enough. Excuse me. Miss Grant, you okay?
You didn't tell me that you know Clark Kent?
Oh, God, not you two.
Oh, watching Clark Kent walk away is like transcendental meditation. All of your worries, all of your concerns in life, they just fall.
What do you think?
Nice job, Mr. Shot.
Not you.
Be...
I love it.
Are you crying?
No.
So what's the plan? Well,
That hatred started all the way back in season 2 premiere, when God Complex girl viewed Superman as a threat to her control over the DEO and the city. Fact it still hates him means that back during season 2 finale, it was feeling emotional excitement from every time it physically hit a vulnerable Superman. Melissa Benoist is basically claiming to be making abusive scenes like that for young women. Melissa Benoist wants young women to think that abusive narcissistic levels of jealousy is a valid reason to abuse family. That is toxic behavior, especially when you realize Melissa Benoist was once a victim of abuse. The next toxic thing Melissa Benoist says in that interview is,
It was that someone was trying to do touch-ups on my hair and makeup, and I was trying to focus, and I was having a really hard time doing it.
That is just the first example used. The second example clip is next.
Is there anything in particular you could share?
I think a lot of times it was for physical, stunt work.
Context to moment in the interview. The interviewer asked if Melissa ever had moments where she decided to speak up on the set. So you're telling me Melissa Benoist only spoke up during makeup and stunt work, but not the fact that her character is an abusive narcissist. Back in season 2, your character said this.
If you don't stop, I'll stop you.
God Complex girls' reasoning for wanting to physically abuse Guardian being.
Armored truck robberies was thwarted last night when National City's newest crime fighter took a stand.
All right.
The new guy, of course.
That scene was before the Dominator crossover. Even after meeting the Earth 1 heroes, it still hates on Guardian in the next clip.
But of course, Guardian had to show up and pick up some of the stragglers. That guy's really starting to get on my nerves.
And Melissa Benoist's only response is,
I feel like I don't ever think twice about what anyone will think of or how they will judge my character, or if they don't like them, it doesn't matter.
Oh, let me get this straight. You're telling me that Melissa Benoist, who was a victim of abuse, has zero issues with her character's abusive narcissistic actions, but drew the line at makeup and stunts. Melissa thinks makeup and stunts are a time to speak up moment, but audience hating her character's abusive narcissistic actions are a
It doesn't matter.
Final conclusion is that I was correct. Melissa Benoist is clearly someone who supports abuse despite being a victim of abuse, because she chose God Complex girl over everything that matters in life. Melissa has no moral code and no code of honor. She does not feel any compassion. She does not feel empathy. She does not feel sympathy. She does not feel love and never has loved anyone. Things like family and friendship are meaningless to her. She does not care about people. She does not feel any guilt or remorse for her toxic actions. She cannot be redeemed or reasoned with. Only thing she cares about in life is the abusive narcissist known as God Complex Girl. Let me know in the comments what you thought about my video. Did you already know Melissa Benoist is a monster, or did my video help you realize that?
Time changes nearly everything, but the mission and the legend of the Batman lives on.